Hello, I'm Dale Matthews, and welcome to our internet-based television show where tonight we have Mike Jones and Bill Kangas, who was on the Grants Pass City Council. Hello, Mike. Hello, Bill.
Good evening, Dale.
Bill says hello, too.
Yeah, Bill, he really is there.
Right. Now, you may recall that we had Rob Pell on the show the other day, and boy, was that interesting. A lot of people didn't know any of those facts. And because we always try to have more than one source on a story, and because it was so compelling, I called Bill Kangas and I asked him if he could come on and tell us some additional details, maybe go over some of the things that happened and corroborate all that evidence, and then fill us in on things that Rob did not speak about. So, Bill, you were a city councilor. This is for people who are brand new. What you were generally considered to be reformers with the city council. There were some people that got us sort of, pushed out of shape about that. Why don't you tell us how this all started? And you were there before some of the newer people came in. Tell us a bit of the background, sir.
Okay. I really didn't like the word you used, though. You said maybe I could recall something, but anyway, that's okay. I don't like that word.
Right.
I got that after the recall. People would call me up and say, "Well, I'll recall you later." So anyway, okay. But prior to getting elected on the council, I spent a year on the Urban Area Planning Commission. I was appointed there by the council, and I was elected in 2006 on the council by a huge margin. But when I was on the development or the Urban Area Planning Commission, I spent a lot of time on safe development. I didn't like the way the development was going. I thought it was a little out of control. And so I thought safe development, and I would go out to everything that we were going to vote on or approve or disapprove, and check it out for traffic problems or anything like that. So I was real conscious with that. And then I ran in 2006 on that platform along with Lisa Berger, and we did real good, and we got on the council, and kind of hardly got our feet wet before we ran into the River District, and that was in 2007, 2008, before the other guys got on. So sorry about City Manager Frazier was a very interesting person at that time, because he was a little it's kind of hard to say. It was his way or no way, but he was kind of took us in on and let us ask questions as new counselors. We could ask questions of the staff. He would answer some questions, but he was he was a different type person. So he came from Ashland, Wisconsin, where he was fired, and before that, Oak Ridge in Missouri. He was fired from there, and or Oak Grove, whatever it was. But anyway, so this was what he came here for. He presented the River District plan, and that was a huge issue in this town. So we were working on that, trying to figure out what was going on with it. And the more we found out, the more we were kind of shocked that how that was presented. We got the original package I saw. We worked on this off and on, but the original package I saw was over 1,100 pages, and I read the whole thing. They gave it to us on a Monday, and I read it by Wednesday, and for the meeting. and they asked if we have any questions, and I found that somewhere after pages, there was 1,100 and some pages, and that up one of those pages after that, there was a cost of $58 million. And I said, I asked Laurel, who
Laurel
was the
Simpson,
city manager,
right,
at that time. I asked her, I said, what is this $58 million for? I was reading about, and she says, oh, you don't have to worry about that. We'll never spend that much. And I said, well, that's fine. We'll take it out, And she said, well, no. We have to leave it in there. And anyway, when they reworked it, they started with 15. Again, it came out with 15 million, and it was open-ended. Could go up to 100 million. It didn't matter. So, a citizen group, and Lisa and I helped them, and we got a referendum. So, if the city council passed this river district, it would have to go to the voters. So we had, when the meeting was real funny when we had it, because the councilors didn't quite understand how to vote. So they all voted yes for the river district, and we thought that was great because we wanted it to go to the voters. They'd never approve it, in a million years. So Chris Woodburn was the city attorney. Huh?
No, it's okay. Go ahead.
Yeah. Chris Woodburn was the city attorney, and he said after they all voted yes, he says, hold it, guys. If you vote yes, it goes to the voters. Is where the referendum reads. So they said, oh no, we don't want to do that. So they all changed their votes to no, and the river district was defeated. So thank goodness. It was just, the plan was the people would pay for all the infrastructure, and the people who owned the property down there by Riverside Park and in that area there, by the jet boat place and all, they would be able to build tourist shops and make all the money. And I could not see that was right. And they wanted a tourist town. That was Fraser's big plan, and he didn't get it. So we kind of got off to a little rocky start with him. So,
Bill,
anyway, that's
Bill,
okay. Yeah.
at your recollection, who were some of the people that were pushing hardest for this and stood the most to gain monetarily from this River District project? Well,
I would say the owners of the property behind the scenes were pushing for it. I believe they would gain. I mean, I can't say they never came up to me and said they were going to gain, but they would.
And who would those people be? Can you say?
Well,
would that
I
be
would
like
say
Evergreen Bank or something?
There, maybe Hamlin, probably Brady, although he didn't do it out front. He had somebody else do it, push for him. So
Brady Adams?
Yeah, but I like Brady. I got along good with him. And he ran a good business. But so I would say people that had some money and owned that property down there. The river, people living on the river were definitely against it. So that was that would kind of interfere with their lifestyle down there. And it's not a tourist town. The economy was starting to crack and crash in 2007, 2008. I think you remember that. And tourists would just not support this city, in my opinion. So anyway, so that was a kind of a way we started. And one other little thing that happened there was a river trail. I don't know if you're familiar with it or not.
I remember hearing about that. Yes, sir. Right.
The south of the Riverside Park, there's several homes along the river. And what Laurel came up with, and I'm sure David Fraser was behind her, was that they wanted to build a concrete or a blacktop pathway, like a road, along the back of their property between the river and their properties, their houses. And then they would be able to patrol it. So they thought if there was any burglars or anything like that, they could drive by there and patrol it at night or whatever. But the problem was, the council actually was in favor of them, not myself or Lisa, or there was, I think, 3 of us against it. But what we did is had them draw yellow, put yellow tape out where this trail would go. Okay, they wanted that trail to go and then connect over to somewhere going to Rogue River. Okay, so we had them do this yellow tape on each side where it went. And so we told the council, you guys need to come out and see what's going to happen to their property. So we got the council to go out there, and Fraser and Laurel. We all went out there, and they had this tape marked off. And in fact, one of the homes would have been cut off about a whole corner of it. And a lot of the people would have stepped out of their yards right onto this trail, out of their houses into this trail. And then they had to go through this to get to the river. And in the meantime, it cuts all their fences down. So it was something that I absolutely could not comprehend. It was just crazy. So when we showed these people, the rest of the council, the markers and where it went, and Laurel even wanted to put a drawbridge over the Rogue River at the end to get across to the river, you know. And she was real giddy about it, and it was hard to believe she was serious, but she was. So anyway, we went back and voted, and it was unanimously they didn't get approved. Once the council saw what was happening to their property, just think of 5 houses lined up anywhere in the city, and just take a trail right through their fences, knock their fences down, and ride a road through them, you know. And we brought that up. Anybody wouldn't be happy with that. And
now, Bill, what kind of reputation did you get with the staff? Because the staff is used to having their way, and the idea that city councilors would say, no, we're going to ignore the advice of staff, that probably rubbed them the wrong way.
It sort of did, although we weren't really chastised too bad, but we brought out a lot of issues that were just common sense. That's all you got to use is common sense, and think about it. I think you know, as a private citizen, we always use common sense in our yards and our stuff we did, you know. And the council, it was like they were using somebody else's money and the city staff, and they really didn't approach it with any kind of common sense. And they were in charge. There's no doubt about it. The city was in charge, and the councilors were not. They did basically most of them did what they were told, or went along with the city. So you have one big city, and the councilors going along with it. And I didn't.
Well, it's a good thing that that's completely changed now.
That's right. Yes.
Nothing's changed. So, but anyway, we got along with everybody. We tried, you know, but we still brought out the common sense problems, and that's how it went into 2008 when Rob and the rest of the guys were elected. Towns and
Ward Warren, Mark Towns.
Yeah.
Their pictures are over my shoulder. Ward Warren, Mark Towns, Rob Pell, you. Okay.
And Mitchell. Me and Lisa were already there, so.
Right.
And we thought along the same way they did, and they all thought with common sense, you know. Let's use common sense. Let's save money because the economy was crashing. Let's find ways to cut money down for the people. We were elected by the people, and the people are our bosses, and they couldn't grasp that. But the council we were with, you know. But all of us grasped that when we were together on the council.
Right.
The people are in charge of us. We went to the people. I always went to the people. You know, a good example is that tax thing they just came up with. I went to probably 200 or 300 homes or more, and I bet I got 80% that didn't want it, you know. And we did exactly the same thing. We went to the people, and not just certain people. We went to all kinds of different people. We got different ideas and this and that. They're the bosses, and the city thought they were in charge, and that, you know, and Fraser was our employee, and he didn't understand that. He couldn't handle that. He had to make the decisions and do everything, and that was something he could never overcome. So, so now then, when those guys got elected, prior to that, we were able to go to any staff member, ask them a question, or we could ask Fraser a question, or Laurel, anybody, you know. So, and Seabold was there, and a few other, I think Reeves was there, and somebody else. So
David Reeves,
anyway,
Martin Seabold, right.
And it was no problem. But when these other guys came on and saw that our ideas were completely different than theirs, they couldn't understand how a council could think that they were in charge. Well, we weren't. Fraser was our employee, our only employee, and we had no control over anybody else. And but we would go to him and we would say, okay, you know, we'd like to get this and that. Rob, all of us would come up with different ideas. And along with that, the Courier was behind us until they saw that we were common sense, going to ask questions and find out what was going on, and want to cut costs. I got supported by the council when I got elected, or I mean by the Courier, and I believe Lisa did too. And there was no problem at all. So now all of a sudden, Fraser's not in charge, because before he was always in charge. Whether he thought he was anyway.
As city manager, right?
Yes, as a city manager, he never was. He was an employee of the council, and a lot of council members and staff or anybody they just couldn't understand and comprehend that. It just hadn't been that way prior. So we got together. We had a lot of questions and ideas, and in order to get something on there, and this is something that came up in the recall from the Courier, Dennis Roller, and I'm glad he's on the council so you can see what's going on. But you had to have 3 people bring something up, 3 counselors, okay? And I was council president when they got on, and I was elected council president, and they would come through me if they we had to have 3 people that wanted something on the agenda. And what Roller thought is, well, that's daisy chaining, and he put that in the Courier, and that's probably one of the main reasons we got recalled, because the Courier just he thought we were all together as a group making decisions. That's absolutely not true. We never did that, but we followed all the rules of the charter. And that's one thing that we stuck to, and nobody could understand that. But if you use common sense and you're after the same goals, you're going to come out with a lot of the same questions and a lot of things we wanted on the agenda.
Now, you certainly must have had a conversation with Dennis Roller and said, now, wait a minute, Dennis,
yes.
This is not what's happening. And what was his response to that?
Oh, no. You guys, we had to turn we didn't have to, but we turned all our emails in. And the city attorney said they're fine. Our city attorney said they're fine. The Courier attorney said they're fine, but Roller made this into a daisy chain. I never heard of that. Maybe you haven't, but it was in the paper all the time. Daisy chain of things here. These guys are doing all kinds of shady things, Well, that's not true. We were following the letter of the law, and we never strayed from that, because the charter was what we stuck by. It's like the Constitution. You know, you need to stick by the Constitution and do what it says, you know. But the charter was the same thing. That if you stick by it and you do it right, it should work, you know. But somehow, you know, it just got out of control. That was part of it right there. That the people, we wanted answers, you know, on finances. We got nowhere. We wanted answers on. They wanted to buy this truck, get this new sewer thing that took the sewer away, and get a new one for $800,000. And we said all it needs is a weld job. We had people look at it, you know, an $8,000 weld job. No. So anyway, that was a big fight, and we said, no, we're not going to prove it. And then they had the fire truck that was 4 inches too tall to go in the garage, you know. So they wanted to build a $780,000 garage. You know, that's a lot of money.
Wow.
And we said, why don't you just cut the floor down 4 inches? You know, it was out in the county where they do their work out there, and they could have easily done that for hardly anything.
Right.
And,
or park it outside.
Huh?
I said, or park it outside.
Oh, absolutely. But it would fit in there if they just lowered the floor 4 inches. But you're going to spend they were spending the money like it was their own. And we're saying, no, this is the citizens.
Oh, no, they weren't.
Elected us to watch their money.
We know what he means.
Yes, I know what he means. But
like it was under their control rather than,
yes.
Yeah. Well, right. I mean, it was like it was their money, not the citizens' money. They never thought of it that way, you know. That's from that regime that we had in there at that time, just felt like they could just come up with 800,000 here, 700,000 here, and just went on and on. So it was a nightmare. There was one meeting we had. I'm not sure if Rob brought this up or not. This was right, getting close to the recall. There was 2 counselors that were for Fraser and myself, Pell, and Towns. And Towns was sitting at one end of the table and Fraser at the other end. And the other 4 of us were on each side of this table. It was a parallel table. And it started out like we were supposed to discuss things and all that. And Towns asked a question, a simple question, you know. And Fraser got irate and threw this pin, and it hit the table and bounced up and hit Towns in the throat. And
Wow.
And then instead of apologizing or anything, Fraser started crying, and he was like, "Oh, and he just, it was the strangest thing that ever happened." And Rob was there. He I don't know if he told you about it or not.
Bill, I don't remember reading about this in the Courier.
No. I'm sure the Courier isn't going to print anything like that. So, and a lot of stuff we went to Dennis Roller with, and he just, it was just signed off. I don't know if it was him or somebody above him, because I have emailed him since he's been on the council, and I still get that daisy chain answer. I don't think he understood the charter. He should by now. Let's hope so. But anyway, there was little strange things like that were happening behind the scenes. I almost got pushed off the rail one night. You know, nobody believed any of these things were happening.
You almost got pushed off the rail. That ramp thing that leads up to the dais there for the city council.
Yeah, we were coming down, and Fraser accidentally, I guess, bumped into him, and I almost went over. But he said it was, he didn't even pay any attention to it. Didn't even look back. Just kept going. He was angry all the time. He's a person that has to be in charge. And he has to be a CEO, and he has to give all the orders, and everybody has to do what he says. That's the type of personality he had. And that's why he got fired from 2 cities prior. Here, he got fired from here, and he got fired in Oregon City. And he got
Bill,
another city.
Bill, what are the details behind Frazier getting fired, and then no, he's not fired, he's retiring, and no, he's not retiring. He thinks he's got to go home and wash his hair. What were the details?
Well, what happened is we had a meeting, and we voted. All it took was 5 counselors to vote by the contract to vote to have him leave. Prior to that, myself and Towns, about a week or 2 before, went in after a meeting and we talked to David. We said, okay, look, it's not working, David. We're just not getting any information. And I took somebody with me because I didn't want to do it alone. I wanted to witness. And he says, well, you're getting all the information you're going to get.
Oh.
So we said, okay, some of the counselors were getting really fed up. It's a free job, and they were, possibly could have left. Who knows? I don't know. It was getting really dicey. So we said, look, we need information. If we can't get it, would you consider resigning? He says, oh, yeah, absolutely. No problem. I'm going to resign. And if you guys don't want me on the council or want me in as a city manager, absolutely. And we said, oh, great. We all shook hands and left. And then the next day, we said, just let us know and when you're ready to go here in the next few days, and we'll do what we need to do. And the next day it came out where he called. It was supposed to be all of us keep our mouths quiet, right? And just it was a done deal. He talked to obviously the mayor. The mayor was upset. Everybody was talking. Oh, we told Frazier we were going to fire him. No, that's not true. We asked would he resign, and he started this and they started all kinds of rumors about the reasons why, and that's when things started really getting dicey, and people were getting involved. A lot of them that supported the city, and trying to find every little thing they could put on a recall that they could, and that was it got totally out of control.
Bill, what was the role of the unions behind any of this?
I can't say. I'm not sure on that one. Okay, but all the city workers were told by Frazier, and we happen to know a couple personally. They said they were told that we were going to get them all laid off. We were going to lay them off. Well, we couldn't. He was the city manager. He's the only person that could do that. But he got that rumor going, and it got all the city workers fired up. So they were going to get out. They were out pounding the streets and talking to people, and they came up with these ridiculous charges. One of them, there was a bicycle group that came into town, and they presented in front of the council what they were going to do, and they were going to come in, a big group, come into Riverside Park and camp out there, and it was a big deal for the city. The city was feeling it would give them a lot of them buying things and all, and it probably was. And so the only issue we had is when they were up presenting it, they wanted to open their beer garden at 2 o'clock in the afternoon, and it was in the September when children were back to school. And so I asked them, could you guys please wait until 4 o'clock when the children, are done with school and they're out of there and they're on their way home, and before you open it. And there was a little, we'd like to open it at 2, and we said, well, would you consider 4? Oh, okay. But after that, and then I talked to the president of the club back east somewhere, wherever their headquarters were, and he said, yeah, that's a fine idea. That's no problem. But then the group started talking to the city people. The city people started talking to the workers and all, and the gang that was involved in the city. But they wanted to get rid of us anyway. But they brought that up as a charge on the recall, that we tried to stop the bicycle group, from coming here. And that was crazy. We didn't try and stop them, but that was a charge on the recall. There was some other ridiculous things too.
Bill, I remember during that period of time, sorry, it sounds like I'm just talking right on top of him, but it's sometimes hard with the delay and all. I remember at the time that there were some incidents that happened, some little episodes that were not very sporting, is one way to put it, totally illegal in others, during the recall time, and we've seen this before, where there were people who were breaking the rules, they were doing wrong things, or they were stealing signs or whatever. Do you remember any of those details from that far back?
There was a lot of that going on. I couldn't pinpoint it down to certain people, but I understand what you're saying. There was just a lot of false information out about us. They didn't realize, the people didn't realize that we were there to cut costs and keep the costs down. And the way it got twisted around by Fraser was that we were, out to lay off all the people and all that. We didn't want to, I was working person all my life, and I was still working at that time. I wouldn't want to see one person laid off, but I wanted to see the costs cut down. Cut it down, just don't spend it like, you're on, use common sense.
What role during that period of time, if any, did the churches and the Chamber of Commerce play, sir?
Well, the Chamber got involved too, talking about it, but I think it was Dennis Weber was in there, came in one night and wanted to be a mediator. He was Fraser's pastor, I guess. Fraser went to a church. It was
Parkway Christian Center.
But anyway, so Weber wanted to be a mediator to mediate, and he wanted to it might take a year or two to do that, mediate us all and get us. And we said, no, we don't really need that, And that kind of upset him. So that was, another issue that it was kind of out of hand.
Mike, just a second, Bill. Mike, this was exactly the same period of time where I had been talking with Dennis Weber from Parkway Christian Center about my problems with the high school and a number of the things that I found out there. That's when Dennis Weber sat me down and said, Christians don't get involved in politics. And what had happened with the high school is I'd gone to go see David Fraser. What did I know? And I said, I found this out. And I took along an assistant pastor with me. And this guy couldn't get me out of that room fast enough. And I said, well, is there any way that you can look into this? He said, we are not going to be doing that. We're not going to be looking at that information. We're not going to be sharing anything with you. Okay, I'm just a regular citizen.
Yeah, well, that's kind of an interesting thing. Christians don't get involved in politics. I'm wondering how we have filled all these political positions over the last 250 years. I mean, there's being a majority Christian nation, they must have been, importing people to fill these positions or something.
Oh, Satan worshipers. That's who it was. That's who they were bringing in.
Yeah, that's right. There we go.
Danged immigrants. Yeah, right. Yeah, right. So, Bill, so the time came up for the recall, and who did you find was pushing the hardest in favor of you reformers and against you reformers?
Probably in favor of it, I think was, I believe it was Fahey. He wanted a raise at the council, and we offered him 50% this year and 50% next year. We were keeping all cuts now. We didn't like to give anybody any raises. At that time, the economy was really in a bad shape.
He wanted more money, to be more specific. He wanted more money for his trash collection service.
Right. And we said, well, can we give you 50% now, 50% next year? Would that be fine? And he seemed okay with it, but then he walked around saying, well, the recall's on. He was one of the main people involved in it. But anyway, what happened back on Fraser again is we got a letter. The council and Fraser got a letter from McGarry, the city attorney, and Fraser had seized control of his office after we had passed a motion to fire him, and he got a letter from McGarry that stated that he was seizing control of his office and he had to leave, and he would be liable if anything happened. And it was because of our motion was legal as far as he was concerned. If he wanted to contest it in court, he could, contest it in court. That'd be up to him. He'd have to get a lawyer or something. But McGarry couldn't represent him. So, and that's finally when Fraser left. But the recall was going full bore. So, and I believe in telling all the city employees that we were going to lay them off, which was crazy. We never would have laid one off. Not zero. It wasn't a matter of employees. It was a matter of the way the money was being spent uselessly. 800,000 for this, 700,000 for this. Come on, when we could have done it a lot cheaper.
So Rob Pell told us something that most of us out here had never heard before. That after the recall, sometime after the recall, he found out something about a lawsuit. Can you tell us more about that, sir?
Yes, we were sued by, I believe, the mayor, and the Bartholomew was the city attorney at that time, because they fired McGarry because he gave Fraser that letter. Laurel fired him, and a couple of weeks later. But anyway, and Fraser actually told McGarry. I was sitting there as I was sitting right by the mayor as council president, and he told McGarry, "If you pass that letter out, you're fired." But anyway, they fired him in a couple of weeks. So you're right, and we got sued in court, but we never heard about it. Nobody ever told us about it. I had no idea. Rob Pell had no idea. Nobody had. None of the councilors knew that we were sued. And until later on, somebody found out that we had this lawsuit and we'd lost, and so they turned it into a resignation.
That's bizarre.
Big severance. You got a severance pay anyway. So when you get fired, you get a severance pay. So that's what he got that. But they turned it into a resignation, and then he went up to Oregon City and said he resigned because he just didn't get along down here. And it was pretty rotten council that got recalled and all that. So, and they didn't understand. They just thought that's what happened. So.
Well, they found out now, because my understanding is he was fired from there too.
Yeah, and they did find out that he got fired down here too. So that was a public record. McGarry put that out. So.
Now, Bill, there's two versions of this about firing or leaving or whatever. One of them says, well, he was just a guy that was hard to get along with. And another one of these stories says, well, there were other issues. Can you talk about whether there were other issues or not?
Well, he was very difficult, just wouldn't give us any information. He was a nasty person. That's the issues I know about, unless you want to give me specific issues. I mean, I'm not sure what you're talking about. What do you mean,
Well, we've heard that there were other things, other reasons behind this, but that's not something that you can talk about.
Well, I'm not sure where you're insinuating.
I'm going to drop that. I'm not insinuating anything. We've heard from various people that there were potentially other reasons why you needed to say goodbye to somebody in a position of power. So what? Yeah.
I think I've told you, if you haven't got the picture, this guy was a dictator.
Right.
And he thought he was king, and that we were just minions, And
there's a lot of that going around.
Yes, there is.
Well, yeah, and
cute little buggers.
It's the the city has to. He had to be in control, so therefore the city was in control. They've been used to that for years. They were in control. The council was just a council, not paid, just some flunkies that come in and then do what you're told to do. But that's not the way it is. You have to use your head a little bit. I think Ronald Reagan said it best when he said the government needs to be treated like your own life, and you need to, the people have to look at how they live, and they can't just go to get money from this special fund, which is the tax fund. Let's raise the taxes. Like the present council threw out that tax, 3% tax or whatever it was, or 5%, or who knows.
I have two more questions for you, Bill, but Mike has one
sure.
first. Go ahead, Mike.
Oh no, I was just gonna say that this just is sounding very, very familiar. This has just been my assessment from watching the video that we've had of the city council, that these guys, they're just getting fed stuff. And they're, you have to watch this very closely, because here's these people from behind the scenes. They feed them the stuff, and these guys are the front men. They're the ones who are going to take the fall if something goes wrong. But these guys who are pulling the strings in the back, they never have to deal with accountability at all. It is what an amazing and miraculous setup. Why couldn't I have set up such a scam?
I think you're exactly right. They didn't realize who was in charge.
Now, wait a minute. Anytime I do anything wrong, Mike says it's not his fault.
But
yes, because generally it's not.
They don't know it. They don't know it.
So here's my final question for you. Lessons learned. What lessons did you walk away with from this situation, and what should we as citizens keep in mind, sir?
Yeah.
Well, the citizens have to keep in mind that they are in charge. They are the ones that elect the council, and the council should go out and talk to the people, talk to them, and find out what they need. I had to take a couple of years off. This guy was really, the recall was nasty. He was nasty. It was a sad situation, and I had to take a couple of years off, and I didn't do anything. So with politics, and I got rid of the Courier, and I don't have it.
It's a good plan.
I throw a letter to the editor in there, and they print that, so I'm happy for that. So, but it was a sick feeling to know that you were trying to represent the people. And like when I got elected, I walked to 1,000 homes and talked to people. I know what the people want. I talked to about 200-300 people and businesses on that tax thing. 80% of them didn't want it. So why didn't the council go out and do that?
Oh, well, Roy Lindsay says that he did.
Yeah.
Well, I doubt it.
And all it took was a couple of minutes, and almost everybody agreed with him.
Yes.
Well, I gave Lily Morgan and Hannon credit for what they did, and they stood up to it. And wish Lily was still there, but she'll make a good commissioner. So.
Okay, well, we want to thank you very much, sir, for coming and telling us this story and confirming some details and adding some others to it. We appreciate that you're a busy guy, and we thank you for your service. And don't let the door hit you as you leave.
I'll be careful. Anyway, thank you guys, and appreciate it. And I hope I didn't say anything wrong. So.
Not as far as we know. All right, then.
Okay.
Thank you very much for joining us, sir. Thank you, the audience, for joining us. Now, Mike has some words of wisdom for you right here at the end. Mike?
Okay.
Words of wisdom. Wow. I don't know where you got that cue, but I have nothing wise to say at this point in time. I think Bill covered it, and we, the gist of this conversation is that we're being duped. The city government is not what you might think it is, riding by on a horse, and it bears closer examination. And that's really all I have to say about that.
Thank you,
Hope
Mike.
the people do it, and thank you for having me on.
We appreciate your time, sir. Thank you.
Okay.
Goodbye, everybody.
Thank you. Bye.
Good night.